what would you say are the top things to do for a newer company?
Well, what kind of, like, depends on what kind of company it is. Are you retail, B2B?
Software reseller, Adobe brand.
Okay, so selling to consumers versus businesses, or either?
Largest enterprise.
Enterprise.
Like 250 million, 500 million and above.
Huge. Okay, so that's a B2B play, right?
Enterprise B2B.
Right, so that's the lead gen business with seminars, webinars, white papers, all that sort of flow. So local doesn't play as big a role for you. Social is still a difficult nut to crack for B2B. And mobile is, you're probably not going to buy, $500,000 order of Adobe on your mobile. So, so I think it goes back to, you're actually back in 1996, frankly, with the fundamentals of good search.
Yeah, and one thing to keep in mind about search and social is they're just marketing. They're channels in marketing, and sometimes, ideally, when you go out on the marketing hunt, you want a full quiver of arrows. Search is one of those arrows. There are many types of marketing. Different arrows work differently well depending on what kind of business you have. If you are selling plumbing services locally versus selling tchotchkes on the internet versus selling video conferencing to small businesses versus selling MRI machines to hospitals, in some of those searches you're starring actor, and other searches a supporting actor in the cast. And more, one of the big future of search trends is that for most of us, search is no longer going to be a standalone. Far too many search engine optimizers, the ones who aren't pirates, are either kind of ad agency fluffies who mean well, but they're ad people, or they're worse, they're techies who mean well and might be competent at search, but they're not marketing folks. And this search industry has a myopia about it where we think search is going to be the be-all, end-all and replace everything. No, search is just growing up and taking its rightful stand in the quiver of arrows next to the other ones. For you, selling to enterprise, search is a supporting actor. Search helps drive people. Findability helps drive people into content. If you're selling, there's kind of a continuum of consumer, small business, mid-market, and enterprise. The closer you are to consumer, the more search can be 95% of your marketing in many cases. The closer you are to enterprise, the more search is 5%. So search is great for promoting events that you're going to be at, trying to get stuff around event traffic, rich media content, webinars, the right kind of YouTube channel. But people aren't going to, from an AdWords campaign, a $250 million company is rarely going to call in and buy on a short buying cycle. So for you, search becomes how do you integrate search with web analytics, with your marketing automation system, with your first sale being a down payment on the $1 million sale that happens 3 years later, and how do you keep all that data flowing down the system? So I wish we could say search is your holy grail. I think you have a much more complicated task.
So, ironically, before I started at Bizarre Voice, I spent about 9 months as a marketing director for a very, very small company here, or a company in Atlanta that was one of the last shoe manufacturers in the United States. And I had the same issue where, I was like, how do I get into these enormous businesses? We did a lot of sales to Fortune 500 retail environments, and we had very, very little resources. So we were a lot like a startup, even though the company was 25 years old. The challenge that I found is to get the phone ringing is that you have to catch their attention, and search is probably too competitive. To Bill's point, to really be the piece that does it. But what I felt was one of the top opportunities was to figure out what is going to capture their attention and to do something that is beyond the norm, something that's out, that's really an outlier, and to ride the content that you can create around this outlier thing. So, for an example, when I was at Career Builder, we used to do surveys, and these surveys, that you can spend a lot of money, or you can, go out and do the surveys with, on the street, and create something interesting. And in a lot of cases, if you ask the right questions, you can correlate data in fascinating ways, where you could find that, in the job industry, it was kind of easy because you could find certain trends about people or certain things that they included in their resumes that were absolutely fascinating. And we did this one campaign where we built an entire campaign around around ridiculous hobbies that people decided they wanted to put in their resumes. And this one guy, he wrote in his resume that he loved to go out to the dam, and he would sit on the dam and watch alligators by the moonlight. Now, why you put that on a resume, I don't know. But what we did is we created, this one piece of content, which essentially is user generated. This one piece of content ended up driving our banner advertising campaign. It ended up driving a press release. It was picked up in hundreds of other, just viral places around the internet. It ended up, being the #1 traffic generating banner campaign. I mean, click-throughs on this ridiculous thing were 4 times higher than any other display banner ad that we had done. And it was because we went outside of the norm and we said, if you want to see the top 10 wacky things that people put in resumes, click here. And it's human, it's personal, yet it's intriguing. And the interesting thing, though, is this was a B2B target. This was not a B2C target. So as we went out, we also put this into email marketing. We put it in, put it on our website, on the homepage of the website with landing, it had some other targeted landing pages. But we took one piece of content because we had very limited resources in our small B2B marketing team, even though it was a big company. Took one piece of content and we wrote it to death. And the conversion was fascinating. The other interesting thing that I found, selling into the C-level suite, is that we had data from our enterprise. We had data and a method to connect our enterprise telephone sales team and their on-site meetings with the website traffic. And we found that even though traffic wasn't coming in from these, the C-level suite and the enterprise folks, from search, they were checking in on our website, and we had many, multi-million-dollar deals that we could correlate website activity coming from the headquarters of a large business, an enterprise business, within the 30 days prior to closing a major contract. And we previously thought, the salesperson's going in and they're closing the deal, and it's all the salesperson. Found out that the website was a key factor in closing those deals, and sometimes it was a link from an email marketing campaign that came in to the website, put them in a landing page, got their interest, and that sometimes was a factor in what closed the deal. So yeah, find content, write it, and make it happen.
If I can add on this, and this applies to B2C as well, but primarily B2B, which is a challenge, is just a reminder that search doesn't create demand, it's a supply side. So something else created the demand. When our clients, when the economy took a turn a couple of years ago, those that cut their advertising, cut their PR, cut other events and promotions, our conversion rates on search by themselves went down, and sometimes significantly, depending on how much they were advertising. And so, it's the way we look at it is search. Our goal isn't to take the rest of the pie. Our job is to grow the pie. And we still win, but integrated marketing truly is the way to go. But in terms of B2B, I was just finally getting around to reading Seth Godin's Tribes on the plane. I just needed some small book, and I think it's really the world's smallest book. But everything he says is really true, and so it's really what you need to do with this new company is create your own tribe, right? You need to create compelling content, really good storytelling, and so you would do that with a blog, you would do that with, it's harder to do in Twitter, so what we recommend for our B2B clients is spending a lot of time on LinkedIn in groups, in Q&A, and to your point, create your own LinkedIn polls. Asking the question can start the conversation, sharing your answers, making it semi-scientific, studies and so forth, we've tested that. And so that's what creates the demand is the thought leadership aspect in B2B, and then search is just waiting once they're like, who are these guys?
Yeah.
So I think I'd look at it kind of and turn it upside down.